Hi, good afternoon. My name is Rahul Shah. I head solutions and partnerships for Wipro Digital. And as you can see from the audience, the title is not very catchy, but I think first let me tell you in terms of what are we going to be covering in this particular session, and then tell you the relevance of the title here. So we will talk about, I in my role talk to about 15 CIOs, CXOs every month, and I just want to play back in terms of what I'm hearing in the market. So that's one, and connect that to the cloud native transformation that is an imperative for the CXOs at this point of time, and then come to the point in terms of what's stalling that and what are the headwinds that cloud native transformations are going through. And then Banu has all the silver bullets in terms of how to overcome those, right? So, but then when I come to the title, I think what I want all of us to do, and a few days back I was reading this WhatsApp message saying that IQ, EQ and social quotient, all these three have become very critical. So I think we need to look at everything from a social perspective, from a people, from a culture, from a mindset perspective, which many a times the developers may not appreciate and might fail to do, and suddenly they face headwinds which they are not able to really decipher in terms of why it is happening, what's happening, right? So with that, let me launch into the presentation. So what am I seeing through my conversations with the CXOs? I think this is a very cliche slide, but nevertheless it is that the best organizations or the highly successful organizations in today's world and today's context, they are the ones who are very focused on customer experience or user experience, and to enable that experience and to meet that experience, they are highly adaptable as well. So when they start off with the North Star. They have a directional sense as to where they need to go, but then based on the data, based on clicks and swipes and taps, and based on client conversations, user conversations, feedback, they are very fast to adapt. Now what then that relates, what this then means is that to become a highly adaptable organization, they need to become a high velocity engineering organization, and high velocity engineering organizations, it pays to become a high velocity engineering organization. As you can see from this particular slide, there is a very clear S&P index outperformance as you increase the velocity. So one of the best ways, or one of the ways that Walmart fought against Amazon, was becoming a high velocity engineering organization, right? Cloud has to play a very big role in organizations becoming high velocity engineering organizations. In the past, also it played a role in this particular imperative, in the sense that you could provision the infrastructure faster, you need not wait for a long procurement cycle, you could scale up and down based on the requirements. But today, with the number of services that cloud providers offer on top of their infrastructure, I think there is a lot more complexity, yet benefits that they are able to provide towards the aim of becoming a high velocity engineering organization, right? As far as cloud is concerned, we are in the second generation of cloud adoption. So the first generation, as you can see from this slide, from the table on the right hand side, was very IT focused, CIO focused. It was very focused on efficiency. Today there is a growing people are realizing, there is a realization that cloud is a business play. Cloud is a digital transformation, a business, a high velocity engineering and adaptability and experience kind of a play. And hence, today cloud decisions are getting made by business and IT together. So a lot of organizations have this cloud business organization or cloud business office, which decides on the value streams that will get adopted from a cloud perspective. It is a revenue building, revenue making decision. So in the second generation, business has taken much more center stage compared to IT as it was in the past. These are some data points highlighting or corroborating the same point, and we are at an inflection point. So, hopefully in the next couple of years, cloud for business and cloud for digital transformation will become much more important for the organizations as compared to cloud for efficiency alone. However, when we see the journey of clients on the cloud, I can tell you that based on my interactions, almost 90% of the customers are struggling. They are struggling to get the business benefits. They are struggling with cost overruns, with time overruns. I was just about an hour back, I was having a conversation around one of the large customers with a pivotal account executive. And this is a large logistics firm. And they wanted to move to the cloud, and there was an urgency to move to the cloud, but they never realized the application complexity that they were dealing with the number of middlewares they had, with the heritage applications that they had, etc., etc. So cloud journeys are definitely getting interrupted big time because of certain unforeseen situations that clients are facing or faced with. This chart is very complex, but I just want you to take back the two longest lines on this chart, which talk about lack of skills, and they talk about the culture of the organization. So these are basically the new organizations, which are almost about 80–90% of the organizations that we talk to. When we looked at the top challenges that they are faced with in terms of cloud native transformation, culture, mindset, and lack of skill sets, which are all people related. As I said, that's the reason the title of this particular presentation is social, or as social in that. So these are the two biggest challenges that clients are faced with. So what is the winning strategy in terms of moving to cloud native transformation or migration? And that's where I think I invite Banu to talk about those silver bullets that he will provide to us.
Thank you, Rahul. So let's come to the silver bullets. I don't think they can be called silver bullets, but this is an attempt to try to see how we can address this problem of this inertia or the friction that's happening within organizations. Right, and why are they not moving fast enough, right, to realize the value at the end of the is what is a mountain, if you will, right? And so what we did is we looked at various clients, and we looked at the various ways they have embraced the cloud today. I mean, some of them said, "Okay, I just want to move my application to cloud. That's because that's the best thing since sliced bread. Okay, go, let's move." And 2 years down the line, hey, I don't have any business benefits realized out of it. I mean, what's the value? Okay, I just moved from one data center to another data center, which is hosted by Amazon, right? So what's the value? I'm going to pay more for Amazon because all these legacy applications are going to take more CPU, memory, and resources, right? So we looked at the various ways people went to the cloud, and we just said, okay, some people took the journey in a way that was conducive to cloud native approach, right? Versus people who said, okay, I just want to move my application to cloud because my CIO said so, right? Because cloud native is always going to be a difficult journey. There will be ups and downs, but end of the day, there will be value realized, okay? That is not sinking in to people. And therefore, when you don't look at it from that angle, and you start your cloud journey in an angle that is, I just want cost, right? I want to be able to scale, that is not going to give you that value that you thought it would give you. And so we divided this into the 4 key factors that we thought. Basically, before you start on any cloud native journey or cloud journey, try to identify the right driver. And please notice that I didn't say drivers. Driver. There's only one driver that you got to look at, okay? And I will come to that. It's a very simple driver, so I'm not talking about many big things and lots of other stuff. Adopt the right operating model. In order to become cloud native, you have to adopt the right operating model. We come to that. And identify the right force multipliers. Force multipliers, right? Not accelerators, not enablers. Because accelerators and enablers do not have the necessary force to push an organization away from this kind of the doldrums they're facing today. So you need a force multiplier to push your organization, right? Select the right partner, right? That's the key, also the key, okay? So let's tackle this one by one, all right? First, we need to appreciate the right driver, and the right driver here is value, right? Regardless of what you do, what is the value you bring to the table? That is the key. And if you look at it, if you focus on value proposition, you are flexible in terms of service, just realizing service benefits, right? So what this shows is basically if you just go for a cost plus, right? I just want to move to the cloud, I just want to get my cost down, right? Versus you go for a value, you see there is a lot of play you can do with your services that will bring in value realization in terms of savings and all that. Savings and the cost saved versus, you know, the value generated through opportunities that you create in the marketplace for your company, right? So because cloud native itself provides that value, including Pivotal. Pivotal's platform, that the PaaS platform, is providing you that value, which I think we need to take a step back and take a look at what value they're providing you. And PaaS is one thing that we can take a look at and see how it provides value.
Can I just chime in here?
Yeah.
See, our digital business and our infrastructure business, for example, from a Wipro perspective, they are two separate businesses. But today we have started talking much more often, because when clients come to just lift and shift and do the migration, the purpose is cost, right? But the true benefits of cloud they are able to achieve when they look at the entire continuum of looking at lifting and shifting, looking at containerization, looking at remediation, looking at modernization, and looking at reimagination. So there are clients who want to take this opportunity to reimagine their entire capability or their entire application, so that you know, they can get 10x benefits. And that's the entire mindset shift that happens the moment you start focusing on business agility, business value, as compared to only the cost. Yeah?
Okay. Thank you. So what is this model that we are talking about? Okay, this model, the operations model, should be around speed, modularity, autonomy, resilience, and transparency, which translates to smart IT operating model, right? What does speed mean? Basically, try to focus on seamless infrastructure, rapid application development. Modularity talks about your ability to add and modify features in the application. So focus on releasing your applications, add features when using features. Feature toggling is one example that you could leverage. Scalability of independent service components, right, that are associated with these applications, right? So you got to bring them into a cloud native approach so that you can make your applications modular enough so that you can scale and do all the right things that you want to do with this application. Autonomy is another important factor, right? So you cannot run an infrastructure where you have lots of people supporting this infrastructure. Right? You need to be able to say, okay, I need to be able to operate an infrastructure with the least possible set of people so that I can reduce friction even with the humans running it, right? So I need to be able to automate everything. Auto scaling is one feature that the application should have. Autonomous infrastructure, like Pivotal's PaaS platform, right? So brings in that autonomous infrastructure management. Everything is automated for you. Continuous integration and delivery, right? So automate the whole thing. That is what autonomy brings in. Resiliency, right? Look for self-healing applications. Look for self-healing and self-learning applications, and infrastructure too, right? So both application and infrastructure should have the same characteristics or a similar characteristics. Right, so we cannot have self-healing applications sitting on old hardware. So it doesn't give you the benefits that you want, that you're looking for. So you should be looking at making investments ground up, so that you get to have both infrastructure and application scaling together. And of course, embedded security, that's a given, all right? So you need to be able to have a secure infrastructure, secure hardware. Everything, your application should be secure. That's embedded, that's resiliency. And transparency. And this is key again, we're coming back to the social aspect of it. We need to be transparent, right? So whatever projects we run, we need to be able to communicate that across the organization. We need to bring people together to deliver on a project. We need to be able to share knowledge between projects, right? It is not necessary that one project does good and the rest of the project fails because the knowledge was not shared and success was not shared between the organization. We have to work together as an organization in order to succeed. So that is the transparency. So and everything business aligned IT service delivery too, right? So by doing this, people have realized that there are lots of cost savings, okay, and that is basic to improved business value, again value, and 25 to 30% of productivity gains, which also results in the value proposition that this model brings into the table, right? Everything points to one aspect of a driver, that is value, and everything is driven on that. So let's come to some force multiplier. So why do we say that force multiplier versus accelerators or enablers and everything else that, in the industry, that force multiplier is very specific? Because we see organizations are moving slowly in their cloud native journey, or actually stalled in their cloud native journey. We need to put the right force so that we can overcome that inertia. The inertia can come in the form of habits, right? The old habits die hard, right? That's what they say, right? So we have a set of folks who are hell-bent on saying, oh, we don't want to move to cloud native because it's hard, or I don't have the skill set, so I don't want to learn. I'm near retirement, I don't want to learn. So what do you do in those cases, right? So we cannot drive them to a point where, we cannot train them to a point, right? So we can only do certain things, and that can help them to move along their journey. And so we got to look at the habit, we look at the anxiety. Oh, what happens to my organization if I move? Everything is automated, right? What happens? Do I lose my job? So do I have to give up? So we have seen this happen in lots of organizations, especially with the infrastructure side. If everything is automated, what am I doing here, right? The same thing with DevOps, right? If everything is automated, why do I need testers, right? So there are several ways we can take a look at this and basically leverage some force multipliers. And what are these force multipliers we are talking about, right? Which basically amplifies your effectiveness. It's a methodology that dramatically amplifies your effectiveness, and that's what it means from the dictionary, okay? What can improve developer productivity? Very simple. Leverage code generators, right? But not all code generators, because there are some code generators will give you bad code, but I'm not saying that. There's certain things that are proven in the marketplace, right? We have Spring components, Spring Boot, and Spring Data REST. How many of you know about Spring Data REST as the ability to do code generation, right? So this is one thing you may have to look at. I can bring up an API without entering a single piece of code through Spring Data REST, right? Take a look at that. That may be very good for your organization, because now we can get quality code through these code generators. It also helps the developer to be more productive. Now I can release an API without writing code. I don't have any I don't have any problems with the errors that are generated, because everything is generated for me, right? So there are no errors. You can look at all the metrics that are associated with coding, and everything is done for you. So you're not writing any code of your own which causes any bugs to happen. JHipster is another way to look at code generation. It's a nice open source Spring project. It's an open source project that is picking up steam, and people are leveraging this for code generation. End-to-end automation, again, this is DevOps pipeline right up to the infrastructure. End-to-end automation, platform as a service and function as a service. So we just want to leave you from the slide which says, okay, at some point there was this push towards a 10x developer, right? Which means the poor guy has to work 24 hours a day in order to become a 10x developer, or he has to be super smart. How many of those do we find today, right? We cannot train a 1x developer to become a 10x developer overnight, right? That's impossible, literally impossible. So what do we do for those things? So add some tools, like these code generator tools that will multiply will be a force multiplier for your organization, right? To push the developers to develop code. And also leverage some opinionated approaches in coding, like Spring Boot, like Spring Data REST for one example, right? So opinionated platforms, opinionated software will provide you the guided way, a curated way of actually deploying your application or developing and deploying an application. Right, so go with opinionated approach to programming, which basically auto-generates quality code, gives you automation, and abstracts the target environment from you. Right, so that is one for developer productivity. Another thing we looked at, I know you guys might be shaking your head in terms of, hey, why is he promoting HCI or hyperconverged infrastructure, right? The reason being is that infrastructure also is very important, right? You need to be able to automate or provide a self-healing, self-managing infrastructure, right? We don't want Cisco certified. I'm sorry if people are there, Cisco certification, but I'm talking about high-level Cisco experts or high-level vSAN experts, to manage your organization's infrastructure. Right? Why don't we just leverage an infrastructure that obfuscates everything or abstracts everything away from you and provides you software-defined networks, software-defined storage, and everything that is just software-related where you can just configure, right? If you want to scale up and scale down, you can just scale up through software itself, right? So if you want to add hardware, you can just plug and play with this hyperconverged infrastructure. So what happens here, if you bring this to the table, is you get consolidated workload silo. You have all the silos that you were working on today with all your VMware instances. You can consolidate them. All your old and new can be consolidated. That is the kind of thing, right? So eliminates redundant hardware. There you are saving costs and that is your OpEx. I mean, the CapEx costs, right? Better staff utilization by removing the need for discrete skill sets. Discrete skill set like, oh, I need to get an expert, and that guy is not available when my applications are down because of infrastructure is down, or I need to scale my infrastructure, or I have a network issue. I have to go contact Cisco to give me an expert. I don't need to do all that. Software-defined networks handles that for me. Okay, so discrete skill set that we have today in our infrastructure environment, like the storage experts, you have their network experts, you have CPU and RAM experts, and also we had Intel releases a chipset, and you need to bring in Intel for to get the best CPU. What do you call that? Chipset that you want to deploy in infrastructure, all that goes away, right? We don't need experts. We need to have an infrastructure that can take care of itself. Okay, that's all we need. And training is simplified. Now we standardized everything, right? So now we can have one platform and one standard set of components, right? And therefore we can simplify the training. So that's the key. Right? And OpEx and CapEx improvements with rolling upgrades and add nodes when needed. These are all standard practices of HCI. And so this is something that there are lots of HCI components, but since we are in the Pivotal Conference owned by Dell, we have to showcase this because this is VxRail. Right? And you can see VMware provides lots of software that sits on top of their VxRail component and provides you that hyperconverged infrastructure, if you will. vCloud is one aspect of it. So with all of these, look at hyperconverged infrastructure. If you're looking at edges of your organization, like for example, a plant floor where they cannot move to the cloud as per se because of certain reasons. They want to be able to manage everything within the four walls of a plant floor. Hyperconverged infrastructure, because we don't want to look at Dell Power Edges or whatever infrastructure they have today, which is all distributed across the plant floors. We need to have an organized kind of way where we can manage these infrastructure, and VxRail is one example of this hyperconverged infrastructure. Okay. Another key thing is force multiplier for your organization itself, okay? Because your organization doesn't know what you're doing until it sees what you're doing, right? And sees and hears about what you're doing, right? If there is a success in an organization, you need to be able to promote that success. You need to be able to understand what that organization wants from you through KPIs. You need to be able to visualize the KPIs and how each of parts of your organization are working towards reaching those KPI goals, right? So you need the visibility, you need the dashboards. And of course, all of that's related to value, right, as I was talking about, value realization. High performance system engineering approach, this is an approach that we came across, and we are implementing it within all of our initiatives. And this is basically pair programming, stream programming, and a very collaborative approach to the developing programming. That's called the high performance system engineering approach, which is very similar to pivotal ways of working. If you have known about pivotal ways of working, or if you do not know about it, take a look at it. And pivotal ways of working more or less focuses on developer productivity, collaboration, and everything else, right? How do I increase the velocity of number of releases, right? So high performance system engineering approach is one thing that we advocate. Gamification, okay? Another cool thing is about gamification. In order to get your organization pumped up and trying to solve a particular problem, right, we need to have leadership dashboards. We need to have leaderboards, sorry, not leadership dashboards, leaderboards. And we need to have some kind of way wherein we know that each of these organizations are performing to their peak level, or how is one organization performing? How can I beat that organization? It's a kind of a gamification. What is the end result will be, right? What is the price at the end of the endeavor, right? So those something, if you can gamify your if you provide some gamification tools, that'll be great. So some of the things that we have invested in is we have something called a top coder. I don't know how many of you are familiar with top coder. All of you, I hope? Good. So top coder is something that we have within our portfolio of products that you guys could leverage, and this something provides you a dashboard. It provides you a forum. It provides you a price, money, right? Which is a big driver, right? So what's the value at the end of the tunnel? That is basically the money, right? And you got the challenges dashboard. Along with this comes challenges dashboard, right? So that we don't have today in any of your organizations, because we don't know what challenges the organizations are facing, right? Maybe challenges dashboard is one thing that you don't have to implement top coder itself within your organization, but take a look at how they've implemented it and try to replicate it within your organization. That will be a great force multiplier within your organization, right? Gamification, like leaderboards is another one. This is for a DNA sequencing project, which was on top coder. But top coder, if you look at it, is for crowdsourcing of your development. This can be also applied within your enterprise, right? You can tailor it to your enterprise, so that we can have. So that's what we did. Now, finally, not finally, but the last thing we need to do, look at also, pick the right strategic partner who understands what is important for your cloud native journey, who understands, who've been in that cloud native journey, right? In other spots, they've been successful at cloud native journeys and moving companies into that journey, right? So the strategic partner is very important, right? Why? Because they bring in the consultative thing. Basically, they have the knowledge, right? They have been working in multiples or numerous customers, and they can bring in that value of knowledge into your organization. The second thing is ability to scale, right? So you may be restricted, as we saw, right? The skill set is one of the key, inhibitors in this whole journey, right? And that's where ability to scale comes into play, that SIs can bring to the table. Inoculating you, that's an interesting concept, right? So you got to take a look at, right? So when a SI comes in, he doesn't just deliver a project. You got to look at an SI who not only delivers a project for you and runs away, but also an SI who actually helps you share that knowledge that he has within your organization. Okay, so that is basically, we have an operating model within, we have a model that we use basically called, a cell-based model, which is in agile terms, I think it's called pods, wherein we bring in developers from our side, we bring in developers from the customer side, we bring experts from our side, bring experts from the, and there is a cross-pollination of thought and cross-pollination of ideas as the project moves along, right? The value that the customer brings in with his developer team and with his team is about the business, right? What we bring in is the knowledge that we on executing that project, right? So we need to look at the proper partners or strategic, strategic partners, right? When you go on this cloud native journey, don't do it alone, is what we're trying to say. We have companies who are going on this journey, trying to say, okay, I want to do it alone, I want to do it myself. And they are, actually, they're not performing that well in their cloud native journey. They're either stalled, or they have some issues on moving, and they don't know what to do. They wait for something else to happen, or for the skill set to come on board. So we can bring in all the right skill set, right things to the table.
Yeah,
okay.
To close.
So I think I'm end of it. Finally, what I will leave is Rahul. Do the closing. In terms
Finally, I think, thanks Banu, the four capabilities, but at the end of it, what I've realized is that this change is difficult, and when organizations are undertaking this change, they need to start from bottom up. So as somebody said yesterday, you need to start from bottom up, and you need to get the support from the top. So start from bottoms up, pick up a few applications that are very critical, that are, that can become a big showcase. So start small, but expect to scale, which means that don't remain small and try to figure out in terms of what are the factors of production which are going to be important as you move to the next level from a scale perspective. Choose very visible business impacting applications, that's very important. Else, if you pick up some applications, and typically that's the kind of, when you're doing this kind of a journey, the typical, bent is towards picking up applications which are back office applications, internal applications. Maybe, it's time to change that mindset and pick up applications which are high business impact and high visibility. Measure the progress. These are some of the force multipliers that Banu was talking about in terms of dashboarding and high visibility, etc. Market the success internally big time, because it is all about people. It is all about the enthusiasm that you are able to generate within the people. So marketing the success becomes very important. And last but not the least, we have to identify the technical and the business champions, so that they can take the message further. They can take the message to the boardrooms, from where you can get much more support and acceleration for your initiatives. So with that, thank you very much. And if you have any couple of questions, do we have time for a couple of questions, if at all?
No, not in here, but definitely
okay.
if you want to step up.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.